to the show with your friend and mine. So tell me, Dr. Squee, who's it gonna be this time? We like to hear you talk, and we love to hear you listen. And if you are not subscribed, you won't know what you're missing. So welcome to the Dr. Squee Show. Welcome to the Dr. Squee Show. Welcome to the Dr. Squee Show. Headphones up. Here we go.
Hello and welcome to the Dr. Squee Show. I'm Dr. Squee and this is my show. For those who've been paying attention, this is the rescheduled interview with Ashlynn Yennie from the Human Centipede and recent film Antidote, which we're here to talk about today especially. And Ashlynn, at the moment, is again, for the second time, currently running a bit late. We haven't received any message. And we have her here now, I believe, and I can welcome her live to the stream. Hello, Ashlynn. How are you?
Hi.
I had to go live so the link didn't expire, so I was just having a little chat to the audience while we were waiting.
Okay, I love it. I love it. I love it. Sorry, I have a 2.5-year-old, so I was getting her situated with a little movie so I could come and talk to you. Where am I at? There we go.
How's your little one doing?
She's good. She's she's a typical 2.5-year-old, so it's good.
We'll assume that's a good thing. I think it is some days.
All right. Where are you located?
I'm here in Southampton in the UK.
Wait, what time is it there?
It is currently 6 o'clock, so it's not so bad that I'm having a cider.
You're having a beer and I'm having, coffee.
Yeah. I think we're both being appropriate to our time zone. So you're at 10 o'clock there?
Yeah, it's 10. Yeah.
I'm just having a little trouble hearing you. Can you turn your volume up at all? Just
I can also put in the headphones. Sorry, I'm using my phone. I'm so sorry.
That'd be brilliant.
Yeah, here, I'll put it. Is this better?
Oh, that's better. I can hear you now.
Okay, awesome.
So how's everything in America? How are you all coping with the pandemic this week?
It's actually been quite great because a lot of people have been getting their vaccinations, and so things are opening back up. More and more things are getting back to somewhat normal life, and so I'm happy. I can go outside without a mask on. I could never get a mask on my daughter, so I was really hoping we were going to get past that point, very quickly, because I had to fly a couple of times with her, and I was just so scared I was going to get stopped by the stewardess, or told hey, you can't fly because she's not wearing a mask, blah blah blah. But it's all good. So yeah.
So what's the age limit on masks? Because I thought it was under 5s. 2.
On flights, it's 2.
Wow, that's harsh.
Yeah, and I'm like, she's not going to put a mask on.
No.
I don't know how to tell her either. It's I don't know how to explain to her, honey, you need to wear a mask. It's not going to happen, So
who knew 2.5-year-olds wouldn't understand pandemics?
I know. She's like, wait, what? I mean, to her, life really wasn't that much different. She was like, oh, mom and dad just stay at home all day now, and I get undivided attention. Cool. Love it. Fantastic.
Yeah.
So.
Meanwhile, you're going, it's yes, some work might be nice, though.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, oh my God, we're dying. And you haven't played with another child. That's weird, but she's an only child.
Yeah.
So she didn't notice, she didn't really notice that it was different because she was so young. Now, on the flip side, my niece, who's 5, had a really, really rough time with it. The effect that it had on adults was really scary, but I'm curious to see how the long-term effect is going to be on children.
Yeah.
Because so many of them, their first, introduction to school was online. And then suddenly they're like, oh no, you actually go and sit in a classroom now. And, you have other people, and they're like, wait, what? I don't get to just sit in my room and look at my tablet. It's so different. So I'm just curious to see what the long-term effects are going to be.
You see, the good thing is though, they're kids. They don't know that doesn't usually happen, that you spend the first 2 years at home and then you.
Yeah, they don't get it. They're just like, okay, so it all, for her sake, it worked out. But if she was a bit older, I think it would have been it would have been a stickier situation. But yeah.
So how about for you then? So will get onto the acting of it all and everything. I find it fascinating that you're dealing with two kind of parallel things there. So you obviously get to spend the youth of your child with her so much, which must be absolutely wonderful. But at the same time, you're dealing with the fact that your industry is an absolute peril. Like it's really so much more difficult for actors to get jobs. What's your kind of overall feeling with all those kind of mixed emotions going on?
You know, it is, I think our industry did a really, really good job with dealing with the pandemic, because when everything happened last year, you know, I was like, oh, I'm not going to work at all this year in 2020. I was like, there's no way I'm going to be working. And then I ended up filming 3 movies back to back. And they were all later in the year. They were all in the fall and winter months. But because, you know, SAG and just the motion picture industry put so much, you know, really great guidelines in place so that we could go back to work safely. I was really thankful for that, because, I mean, otherwise we would have nothing going on. There was, and I mean, it was very, like, the audition process is still super, super weird. It was funny. Actually, yesterday I had my first Zoom callback, and I hadn't had one yet. You know, I hadn't had that experience yet, even though many people have had that experience last year. I hadn't had it yet. So I had an audition. I had to do a self-tape, which that's just the norm now. You have to do a self-tape, which that's been an industry standard for a while now. But and then I had a Zoom callback, and I was telling my husband, I was like, you know what's so crazy is a callback can be a very cold room for you to walk into. Like, nobody says hi, nobody's very warm. And a Zoom callback, I was like, I wonder what that's going to be like. Just as cold, by the way, just as cold.
They don't make any allowances for
nobody talks to you. Like they check you in, like cast director's like, hi, slate your name, and you're like, oh, hi, and literally you're the only thing on the screen, so you're only seeing you, and then you're trying not to look at you. You're trying to, you know, you're like, and you're using your computer, and so you're like big, and then you're just like, and then the director's like talking to you, but you can't make eye contact with anyone, so you're like, do I look in the camera? Do I look away? Where do I look? Where do I look? And so it's super weird. But on the flip side of it, I'm grateful and I'm thankful that, you know, again, our industry has stepped up and had really great safety protocols put in place so that we could get back to work safely. I did do one of the first movie I did do last year. We got shut down our 3rd day of filming because the guy playing my husband tested positive for COVID. And we had went through like test after test after test just to get started on production. And then it was a false positive? Is that what it's called? So he actually didn't have it, but it shut us down for a week and a half, which costs production like a ton of money and like all of these things. And, you know, COVID, you know, the supervisors that are on set do a really, really great job keeping everyone social distanced and all that stuff. But it's still trippy. And I'm so excited to just get back to like normal, regular human interaction.
Because it's like I don't know which is worse at this stage, because, you know, I've got kind of several friends in the acting industry, and I know kind of how intimidating it is when you've got just 3 faces just staring at you blankly while you audition. Yourself facing back at you, I think, might actually be worse.
So weird. It's so bizarre. And also you're trying not to look at yourself. It's so weird because you're like, wait, and then you're like, but, and then it was very, and then one of the directors, funny enough, if I book this job, it's going to come back to haunt me. But when the director goes, can you sit down like in the thing? And I was like, I have it all set up, so I'm standing, because I'm standing most of the time. And I was like, I have to redo like my entire, like, I don't have a studio. It's not like this is a camera. Like, I literally have to take the books that I've stacked up and like, you know, I was like, this is not going to work. I was like, no, I'm sorry. I was like, pretend I'm sitting.
Did you do the books like in the background to look as if it's kind of,
I was like, this is crazy. Now. I was like, I can't. No, I was like, I'm sorry. I was like, if I move an inch either way, like you're gonna see my daughter's toys. You know?
It's really funny you should say that, because I've just recently bought a new webcam, and the last one was just very tight on me, so you couldn't see anything in the background. We moved a few months ago, just haven't got around to putting anything on the walls. I suddenly got the new webcam, set it up, and I realized you could see all this blank wall. And like you, if you steer it either way, you're seeing junk in the corners. So
I very
quickly set dressed this.
like right now, if I move either way, you're gonna see like a box of, like you're gonna see printer paper, and this is an office right now, and then you're gonna see like a box of industrial sized box of masks from Costco. So I'm like, it's just like you're gonna get a real glimpse into my life. So yeah.
Well, talking about getting a glimpse into your life, I can do cheesy segues. Let's go back to where did it all kind of start for you getting into acting?
Oh goodness. I'm originally from a really, really small town in Wyoming, and there's not a lot to do artistically there. And I was always interested in acting. I think my mom has a very funny story. I did my first play when I was 4. I was in preschool, and I memorized like 26 pages. And my mom was like, wow, this child has an amazing memory. And I think that's kind of what started it, because I was like, oh, I'm really good at memorizing. Like, I should just continue doing this. And so I continued to always be in school plays. I was really active in local theater. And then it wasn't until I was in high school that I was like, I think I really want to make a career out of being an actor. I came out to LA when I was 18, and I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for LA yet, because it just seemed, I just wasn't ready for it. I didn't like the vibe. And I was like, you know what? I think I need to study. So I went to New York, and I lived in New York for almost 6 years. And I studied at a film conservatory there. I got the best training, and I really just took my craft very seriously. And, it was then right after I graduated my conservatory, I booked my first feature film, which was The Human Centipede. And that,
yeah. Can we just take a pause there? That's your first big feature film, is The Human
It was my first
Centipede.
job ever.
What a thing to go into. I mean,
yeah.
I just like the whole, no matter what anyone says about it, good or bad, either way, it is genuinely one of the most shocking films of our lifetime. Like that kind of, I think that's a certain amazing thing in a world where people talk about shocking. This was genuinely shocking. And I think that's what art should do. Even if people don't like it, I think they should appreciate what it was for that. What was it like that being your first, like reading that script and that being your first gig?
It was so crazy. I think about it now. Some people have asked me, they're like, would you still do that movie? I'm like, now at 36, absolutely not. I was like, no way. But I was 22, I went in for the audition, and it was there was no script. It was just a synopsis of what Dr. Hyder was going to do to these, 3 people. And I was like, this is so trippy. At first I was like, this isn't a real movie. And I kept asking the director, the director wasn't even there. I kept asking the producer. I was like, what is this?
Can I ask one question there? Sorry, just because you said you got the synopsis, not the full script. Does it sound more or less weird in a synopsis? I think the script might at least give it some texture, but just synopsis. By the way, 3 people sewn together. What do you think?
Yeah, no, it was so weird. And that's the thing. I was like, this isn't real. But funny, a little side note about The Human Centipede is that there wasn't an actual like script. What it was, I think I have it somewhere, but I saved it. It's you're supposed to give it back, but I kept it. It was like a very small pamphlet, and it was just pages, and on each page was a synopsis of what that scene was going to be about. And that was it. There wasn't an actual working script. So for me, it was a very, very, very bizarre first film to do, because I was like, wait, there's no script. Okay, so we're just going to improv all this shit. I mean, I don't talk a lot in the movie, so it worked out. But it was such a weird, trippy experience, that being my first movie, also because I didn't know anything about horror films. I didn't know anything about the horror genre, really. I mean, I'm a fan of horror movies to an extent, or I was, but I didn't know, I wasn't a big buff, like I wasn't a big movie buff about horror films. I didn't really know that horror industry that well. So I got thrown into it, and it was super cool to be just completely welcomed with open arms to this amazing community of artists and people. And, The Human Centipede became what it did. And I didn't know it was going to become what it did. I don't think the other actors did either. But the director, he always knew. He was like, no, you guys watch. Because I remember making fun of the name when I was on set. I mean, again, I was 22. Like, I was like, you're really going to call it The Human Centipede?
Which fair comment.
Yeah, because I was like, it's such a weird, like, what? And it was such a crazy, couple of years of my life, because then I started doing the horror conventions and traveling and meeting all these, like, again, being thrown into that scream queen category. And it really set the tone for the next like 5-6 years of my career. Again, because that was the first thing I did. So people were like, oh, she's just like really like she can do really shocking things. And I was like, actually, I really want to do like a romantic comedy. It was like, it was like so weird.
Yeah. Just to break it down, a few of the things you brought up there. So the director, what was he like? What was kind of like, I just want to get into the mind of someone who thinks of something so wonderfully bizarre as this.
Tom, I mean, if you ever get the chance to talk to him, he's just like delightfully sick is, how I can describe him, is like, he's got this crazy sick sense of humor. And he's like, he finds like, the most grotesque, horrible, horrific things in life, and he wants to exploit them, and so his, the reasoning behind the Human Centipede and why he like came up with the idea was, I think he had read something about like some weird people doing like, weird things with children, and he was like, what they should, that guy should, his face should be sewn to the ass of a fat trucker, is what he said, or something like that. And then he was like, oh, that's actually a really fun idea, I want to go off on that. And then he just like created the Human Centipede. So he's a really delightful guy. He's a great director. It was really fun working with him. I worked with him twice, because I worked with him on the first one and the second one. And it was just he's trippy. Oh, sorry. And he's just got, he's got his own style. And yeah, he's shocking to, he's a shock. He likes to shock. He likes to shock and awe, and I think he did that successfully with the Human Centipede. And, it'll forever, yeah, it'll forever be like, attached to me. No pun intended. It was, because I did that movie. It was my first movie. And for a few years, I tried to shy away from talking about it. I was like, oh, I don't want to talk about it, blah, blah, blah. But at a certain point, I was just like, you kind of just own everything that you do. And I was just like, I'm really proud of that being,
yes,
like, I got to make history with a bunch of people that we didn't know. I didn't know that was going to happen. And so it's like, it's cool to be a part of something like that, something that became so big. I'll never do another movie like that. I'll never do something that becomes like that. Like, I don't think I'll ever be attached to another project that becomes what the Human Centipede did. Just don't think it's going to happen. If it does, lightning strikes twice sometimes,
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens, but yeah. So.
Yeah, and something which I don't want to kind of go gross out on it at all. That's not my kind of remit, but like I'm kind of fascinated by how you go about filming that as well, because there's, in an age where we've more so since the Human Centipede, but we're very careful about how we kind of treat actors. How was it setting up some of those scenes? Shall I put it that way?
They were really, really respectful. Again, because it was my first movie, I didn't have anything to gauge it off of. But, as far as like being in the centipede formation, it's all fake. So, the other two actors, like they got butt casts. So they got their butts made into like a fake mold. I know the things we do as actors. And it was all like fake.
So much fun, to be honest.
I know. And then they had a bite in the middle of it that we would like, it kind of looked like almost like a pacifier, that you would put on like a kid in a kid's mouth, and it was like a bite that we bit down on, and then a piece of gauze went around your head. And then, they would put that over them, in when we were on all fours, and then you were just like right there. But, there's so many layers between you and the other person. Like there was a lot of layers, because there's like the latex, the fake butt, like all the things that she's wearing, and all the things that he's wearing. And so you're just kind of like, and then we didn't film more than like a few minutes at a time in that formation. Tom moved very, very fast. So when we did it, he was like, got it, move on. Like that was it. Like the longest I think we were in that formation was like going up the staircase. which was like tricky because we're trying to all maneuver, you know, but it was really, you know,
Yeah.
it wasn't bad. I know it sounds so crazy to say that, but it really wasn't bad. It was like, okay, it was weird, of course, because you're like, what are we doing? But you know, you do a lot of weird shit in movies sometimes. And I've had weirder experiences in a sex scene than I have filming Human Centipede. You know, it's like it's like to be truthful, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Sounds like you certainly got your workout during that film.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was but that type of, see, and this is what I've told people, it's like that movie, doing that movie set me up to be able to do other movies that I've done, including Antidote that just came out. Because
Yes.
you know, when you sign on to do an independent horror, you kind of have to know what you're getting into. You know, sometimes it's not going to be super comfortable or cushy, and it's not like television where they move super fast and you have a chair and you have a trailer and all of these things and like 9 people are taking care of you. You know, it's a lot of internal work that you're doing to be in these horror movies and to play these characters and to play them truthfully. And it's a really cool thing to be able to work in this genre. And I love it because you get to play the whole spectrum as an actor. You know, I get to be all of these wonderful things, and then I get to be fearful and scared and then die. And, you know, I get to play all these like crazy great emotions. And so, you know, I'm really thankful that, you know, I did do the Human Centipede because it did prepare me for a lot of my future work. So
Yeah, I mean, it seems like, I think an independent film is great preparation for any kind of film going ahead, because you have to, like, you know, you were saying about, you know, you have to get the scene, you have to get it right first time because there isn't so much money to do a lot more reshoots. You have to move very fast. You have to kind of be hot on your marks. So that prepares you for when you've kind of got like a big screen movie, which is like 100 takes per everything. You're kind of like that would be easy for you by then.
oh my God, I cannot wait. When I hear about people and they're like, oh yeah, we shot over like 3.5, 4 months. I'm like, I am so jealous. I'm like, like the longest shoot I've ever done is like 2. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't imagine having like a whole day to do just one scene. That sounds bonkers to me. Bonkers. And I'm like, wow, that's so cool. I cannot wait to start doing those projects, you know, because I do stuff where it's like, you know, including this movie, like an Antidote, for instance, you know, there's a lot of practical effects in it. And the director, Peter, wanted that. But the thing with practical effects is once you spill blood, you have to hope that everything goes correct. And it's like, you know, blood, it's like water, you know, you don't know where the fuck it's going to go. And so sometimes the gag doesn't stay, you know, like, it doesn't come out right away. So I'm like choking, but nothing's happening. You know? It's like
I'm feeling like my neck's gonna go at any minute.
I know. And like, for instance, like in the movie, there's a girl that slices her throat open, and to reset that scene, because it's blood sprays everywhere, it takes like 4 or 5 hours to reset her, to reset the wall, to reset the entire scene. And so you don't get a lot of takes to do, you don't get a lot of time to do that. You get like 1, 2, maybe if you're lucky you get 3 times, but normally you do it on the first take and everything has to work perfectly, and you just pray to the SFX gods that everything works, you know. But yeah, so yeah, I don't know, just rambling.
I have got loads of questions about Antidote. We did watch it the other night, absolutely loved it. We will get onto that in just a minute. I do just want to ask though, because again, Human Centipede is fascinating. I think the amount of things it did, one of the most successful films ever for the amount of budget versus return. It's amazing. But I want to know for you as well, like, you've just done this, it's your first job. And even though the director's been saying, oh, this will be a surefire success, it's going to do wonders. When it came out, how was it living through that reaction, like both personally and generally for the movie? And did you get any real kind of shockers coming to you?
Yeah, it was, so, you know, it's like, it's with horror films, it's either, I mean, not all horror films, but, or not all, some films are like this too, but some people either love it or you hate it. And so I got super mixed reactions for being in it. I got told, oh, you're so cool. That's such a cool thing. You were in that movie. And then I got like, you are the most horrible, disgusting actress. I can't believe you were in that movie. I don't respect you at all. And I lost respect from some people, and then I gained a lot of like, you know, credit from other people who were like, this is cool. And so it was a really interesting thing because I moved from New York to LA because of that movie, because I always said if I was going to move to LA, I wanted something to go off of. And I didn't just want to move to LA, you know, like the 10,000 other actors who move here every single year. And I wanted to have some sort of credit. And so I had the Human Centipede. And I remember taking meetings with agents, and I distinctly remember this one agency. I had to sit, you know, in a boardroom with a group of agents, and they all have to agree on you, even though only one of them really represents you. All the agents have to select you. And there was this older woman who, it was just not her cup of tea. She just was like, I don't understand this movie. It's not like, and she's very honest with me about it. And
yeah,
I was so young at the time, and I kind of clammed up, and I didn't really know how to respond to her. And now if I were to go in that room, I would know exactly what to say. But at the time, my manager looked at me and goes, do not sell yourself to her, like in the room. And I was like, so I just turned to her and I said, I understand you don't like the movie, but this is the only thing I've done. So it's the only thing I have to talk about. And I'm hoping that if you guys work with me, I can get more work. Well, I didn't get signed with that agency, so they did not take me. But I did find, you know, people who did want to represent me and did want to take a kind of a risk and let me be seen, you know, for other jobs. And I had a really great agent for a few years who, she was wonderful. And, you know, it was good and bad is what I guess my point is there were good parts, and then there were really, really bad parts where, you know, I had to dig myself out of quite a few holes because people just wanted to peg me into this, you know. And that's the thing about the Human Centipede is like, it was my first movie. It's not like I had a ton of experience or a ton of, you know, life experience to use either. So as I've gotten older and had more experience and done more projects, I think my acting has, well, 1% improved, but also just my, you know, dealing with how a movie comes out afterwards and dealing with the aftermath of if it's good or bad and if people like it or they don't like it, you know, and not take so much to heart, because when you're young and you're getting told, you know, there's some horrible things being written about you, you get really sad and it can affect you. And now you just brush it off and you're like, okay, move on to the next project, you know, something else will come along the way. But those are life lessons you have to learn. So
I mean, it may just be the hippie in me, but I just feel like anyone who gets that movie gets art. Like, you know, again, it's not about liking or disliking it, but getting what it is and what it did. I don't see how you don't get how that's such a big movie. And I bet you that woman who was so po-faced against it, I bet she has not had anyone in her office, perhaps ever, who's permeated the culture through their debut, certainly.
No, I don't think so either. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's what you have to take, the good and the bad. And then there were times when I would go into a casting and I had one specific casting director, and she's a very well-known casting director, and she loved the movie. She was such a huge fan of it, to the point where I actually brought her in a copy because I was like, here you go. Like, everybody signed it for you. And all she wanted to do was talk about it. And then I was like, can we work, please? Like, I'm here to audition for you for a different thing. Like, I would like to, you know, work on something else, you know, but all she wanted to do was chat about it. And then that became like an issue because I was like, okay, like, and so I always gave people time. I was like, yeah, let's chat, you know, but like, also I want to do my audition, you know? So it was funny.
And I will stick to that rule as well.
Oh, no, this, I love doing this part. No, please. This part.
But something I did want to ask about before we get on to Antidote, which we're of course here to mainly talk about today. So True Blood, you popped up in as Lady Courtesan.
Now, I'm actually not actually in the episode. I got cut out, but it's, yeah, I know. But I will tell you, working on a show like, I've worked on a couple TV shows, working on a show like True Blood, working on a show like NCIS, those shows have been around for a really long time. they work like clockwork. They are just like, you step onto those sets and just, one, everybody loves their job because they've been doing it for years and years and years. They have a hit show, so they love what they're doing, you know, and that just makes you like excited to be there. And I was in a scene with Alexander Skarsgård, and he is one of the tallest actors, but also the nicest human beings. Like, I'm talking unbelievably nice, like so nice, to the point where we were like he had his own chair and like his own space, and you know, he has a stand-in and all, or double even, you know, and all this stuff. And he was hanging out with us, like the day players. He was like, "Hey guys, just wanted to chat." Like, and I was like, "Who are you? Like, you're so famous and like fantastic, but wonderful." And so I always, and same thing when I worked on NCIS, it was the same exact experience. Michael Weatherly was just like so wonderful. And I was just like, you know, that makes you, as an actor, you're like, I hope to always be just like that, just as kind and just as engaging with people that come on to work 1 or 2 days on your show, you know? But yeah, those types of shows, when you get to work on them, that's the cushy job. That's the job that's not like the indie horror.
And also, like, that seems to me very much, it links back to what we were saying before. Like, if you've worked in indie cinema, you're already prepared for those fast-paced environments. So with TV now, especially with the production values, the money which is pumped into TV, they're doing a movie they're making every week, essentially. That's what we're dealing with at this stage. And so they've got to move incredibly fast. They don't get the reshoots the movies do.
Yeah.
But they've got to now present the same level of quality as a movie, and just do that 24 times over sometimes, or 13 episodes if it's like one of the new style series.
Yeah.
So I think like you were perfectly placed because you done indie cinema first.
Yeah. And so I was used to, I mean, I'm used to only getting like 1 or 2 takes on most things. And so when, you know, I don't scoff at when they're like, "Got it, done." I'm like, "Good, moving on, let's go." You know, if everybody's happy, let's work. But yeah, when you work in TV too, they have so much, like, there's so many people behind the scenes. Like, I mean, I personally had my own hairstylist and 2 makeup artists, personally, just myself on True Blood. And they were behind me the entire, like, making sure, because I was playing a woman, and it was set in during like the Black Plague. I think it was like 1700s. And so I had a very specific hairdo, and I had very specific makeup, and I had this insane dress corset thing. Oh yeah, I had 2 people dressing me. Like, the amount of attention you get, like, it's just bananas. And I was like, this is so cool. And then, you know, but when you do, you know, a Human Centipede movie, you're on your own, and they're like, "Hey, strap it in, you know, let's go." And you're just like, "Okay, let's go." You know?
Here's a tub of makeup, go.
Yeah, go ahead. Or no makeup at all. They're like, "Can you look more sick?" You know, like, you don't want to do any, you know. So it's just, this business is so fun, and it's so creative and so interesting, and it takes so many different types of artists to work in it, and you really appreciate every job you get, and they're all so totally different. And you know, you're along for the ride. Whatever you know, lock in to do, you're just like, all right, this is what I'm doing, let's do it, you know.
So let's get on to Antidote. I want you to describe the plot, because I find it hard without giving anything away.
I do too.
Great and twisted film. So give your little synopsis you'd give out.
You know, it's super, I agree with you. I've been asked this question a couple of times lately, and I always just, you know, digress to what the director says, and he calls it a morality tale, which I'm like, okay, Peter, like, it's a morality tale. So Antidote is seemingly, it's about a woman who goes in for emergency surgery, wakes up in a completely different hospital. That in itself is already so scary. That in itself is one of, like, every human being's worst fears. The scariest part sometimes of surgery, yes, the surgery is scary, but being put under is super terrifying, because it's like, one, is it going to work, or am I going to be comatose but feel everything? Like, that's one of my fears, that I'm going to be like comatose but yet feel everything. And then, you know, how you're going to wake up, how you're going to react from that. So she wakes up in a completely different hospital, not knowing why she's there, not understanding why she's there, gets no clues from the doctor who she meets. So she goes on this discovery, and along the way she discovers why she's there, why the other patients are there. And they all have, you know, dicey past lives.
Yeah.
And what you discover, it's really a story about is there such thing as true redemption? And what if you had to pay the price for something you did in your life that you're not super proud of, or a very, you know, kind of bad situation you got put in? What if that affected the rest of your eternity? Like,
Yeah.
So anyways, that kind of gives it away a little bit, but it's hard not to give. It's just hard not to. Because
I think what's really nice about it is that you feel like, without being kind of teasing it out too much, because that can get frustrating in a movie, because you've got so many characters with so many shady pasts, you're getting a little bit about everyone on the way. And you know your character, they've definitely got something in the past. There's definitely going to be something coming out, but they kind of really tease out until that happens. And I thought that was just so wonderfully done. What kind of really struck out to you in the script when you first read it?
Well, this is the craziest part. Sorry, I'm going to turn off this baby monitor.
I thought you said something you weren't meant to, and it was like your spoiler alert.
No, I'm just silencing a baby monitor. This is what's super, super crazy about this story, and this goes back to just being prepared for doing whatever, is it was late September 2019, and I get this Instagram message from Lucas Potassi, who's the DP of Antidote. And I had worked with Lucas earlier in the year on a short film. And he sends me this message and says, "Hey, what's your month of October look like?" And I was like, "What?" I was like, "What are you talking about? That's like, it's so cryptic." I was like, "I don't know. I'm around." And then he was like, "Okay, cool. I'm going to send you a script." That's all he said. Didn't tell me the title. Didn't tell me a synopsis. Didn't tell me anything. Literally just sent the script over. Didn't even tell me what I was supposed to be looking at. So I read the script that night. It was like 11 p.m. And of course, like, I'm like, "Ooh, new script." And so I start going through it. I'm reading it. I read the whole script and I'm like, whoa. And I write him back and I go, "Wow, whoever's playing Sharon has like her plate full." And he goes, "Okay, cool. So you're down?" And I was like, "What?" I was like, "What is he talking about?" And then I'm very good friends with him. And I was like, "What is he talking about? It's so weird." And so then he goes, "We start filming on Monday." Remember, this is Thursday night. It was Thursday night. Thursday night. He goes, "We start filming on Monday. Our lead actress just dropped out. And we are set. Like, the whole cast is set. Locations are set, blah, blah." And I was like, "Oh my God." And he goes, "The director knows who you are. You were on his short list anyways, but he had hired a name actress, a girl that's, on TV, and she's, you always want to get your biggest bang for your buck, right?"
Yeah.
And so I was like, "Wait, what?" And he goes, "The director, we were like thinking of actresses, and I brought your name up and said, I know her personally." And the director was like, "Can you reach out to her?" He goes, "I'm going to set you up with a phone conversation." So I call Peter the next day. It was Friday. I have this phone conversation with Peter and Alexi, the other producer, and they offer me the role. And I was like, "Oh my God, this is such a huge, huge project to take on with like zero prep time." But October of 2018 is when I had my daughter. So this was October of 2019. And so it'd been 1 year. I hadn't really done anything like a real meaty project. I'd done like a TV movie and some commercials and blah, blah, blah. So I was like really itchy to like get into like something really cool. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm so down. Let's do it." So I locked arms with them to then shoot for like the next 35 days, which then turned into a longer shoot. But I then had to tell my husband, "By the way, I'm going to be gone for the next month. Like, I'm filming here in LA, but I'm going to be gone every scene. Like,
Enjoy homeschooling.
Yeah, I was like, "Have fun." And then I think it was Saturday, I met Peter, the director, and I met Lewis, and who plays Dr. Hellenbach. We all met for coffee.
Mm.
And then I just took the 2 days and just broke down the script. And I said, give me the days in and days out. I was like, because I need to know exactly what we're doing. So I prepped just 1 week at a time. Because again, we're filming over a month-long period. I was like, so I just did weeks at a time. And I was like, what do I need to focus on right now? What am I filming first, second, third, fourth? And then I just dove right in. And Lucas and Peter and the rest of the cast, they had all had the script for a while, and they all really knew it like the back of their hand. And I read the script many, many times just to really digest everything about Sharon and like try to squeeze as much as I could from it, But again, I didn't have a huge amount of time, so I really drew on a lot of personal experience. As an actor, I've had some health issues in the past, and so I kind of drew on some of my experience being in the hospital with IVs and blood transfusions and things like that to really bring like forward all of that emotion and that life that I wanted her to have. And also because I'm a new mom, I could really draw on that experience of wanting to get back to my kid, wanting to get back to my family. And I don't think if I would have played this role a few years ago, I would have had that depth that I brought, or I hope I did. And so it was such a whirlwind experience for me, honestly. It was super crazy, but and it was long days. We filmed like 12, 13 hours a day, and I'm in almost every scene. And so it was very grueling. It was really long, but it was a super great experience. And I ended up becoming really great friends with the director, Peter. I'm actually helping him produce another movie right now. And yeah, it's just cool. It's just cool. So
we're going to have to talk about the production side of it in a minute. But what I really loved about it as well is it did have these kind of nice jump scares and a few like nice little bits of gore. But it is one of these rare films these days which really goes into the psychological element of it. So you've already mentioned you kind of like you go under in an operation and then you wake up and you're just separated from your family, and you've got these other people who somehow are separated from those they love, and they're just imprisoned in this place. For you, kind of like, do you often get scripts which go into this kind of more psychological angle? Because I thought that was really special in this film.
It is really special. And no, I don't get I don't get to play roles like Sharon very often. And especially how much vulnerability she had, but then how much of a fighter she was. How much she just, at one point I actually made a joke where I was like, she won't stop wandering these hallways. I was like, she just won't give up, like anybody else. I was like, I kind of was reflective. I was like, would I give up at a certain point and just be like, okay, this is my fate, I'm just going to deal with it. I was like, she's like, absolutely not. I'm going to keep going. Like, I'm not staying here. She was such a fighter. And so, no, I don't get to play the and especially, this is also what's interesting too, is the script that we shot, the working script, did not have the scenes that are with Costas, the detective. So the scene where I'm, getting questioned, that flashback scene, the flashback in the church, those things were added later, because after we finished the movie, Peter did a rough cut, and then he sent it, to all of us to kind of look at. And again, you should never watch your work when it's in such rough form. You're like, oh my God. But the big note that we all gave back, including me, is I was like, you don't care about her. There's nothing, you don't really care if she gets out. There's no redeeming quality of her. She just did this like horrible thing, even though it was her situation with Nico. And then, it's like you need more backstory. And so then Peter, we did another 6 days of shooting to get all of that stuff, which now looking at the film, I'm like, if we wouldn't have done that, most of the film would have all just stayed right in the facility. The pacing would have been totally off. It would have been such a different movie. And so it's interesting how you can film a movie and then you can, see where the holes are, and then we got to fill them in. And it was really cool. And so it was such just a really cool experience also to play a character like Sharon, because she's introduced one way and you see she's this like loving, caring mom, and you know, she's just like an average woman basically. And then you see how much is underneath all of that. And then you start, and that's in the facility is where you really start to see all of those layers stripped away. And you're like, oh, well, that fighter lives in her still, because that's a huge part of her past. And how many of us have that? Like how you were different, you know, at 15, 25, you know, 30, and all of these things. And it's like how, you know, we all have gone through these different stages in our life and how they've shaped us and given us these underneath layers to draw upon. But yeah, so it was really cool to be able to play a character like her. And just, it's one of those juicy roles that don't come about a lot. And so I was, you know, of course I jumped at it. Of course, Lucas was like, you up? And I'm like, yeah, you know.
I've got to say, very kind of you to have stopped at 30 and not, you know, gone up to more. Very kind.
I can never tell how old people are. I'm like,
I will go with that. 30 is good. 30's fine. 30's fine. But one thing also is the fact that I think the fact that it kind of answers your questions as it goes along as well, because like there's certain moments where I like when films kind of trick me like this, when I'm going, well, that's ridiculous, and then it kind of answers you. So you were talking about wandering the halls. I'm going, security's a bit crap in this place, isn't it?
Yeah.
But then later on you discover why security isn't so much of an issue. So it's like I kind of love that kind of thing as well.
Yeah.
Could you just talk to us about the kind of cleverness of the plotting of this? Because I think that's very key to this as well.
Yeah. And I will tell you one thing that's very, very cool about how we shot this movie is, so Peter, the director, he was the EP on the whole thing as well. He rented out this warehouse in downtown Los Angeles, and he built that whole set from the ground up. So it's 100% custom. And then he tore it down the day we finished. You know, it was like done. And so it's just one really long hallway. And then on one side, there were like 4 or 5 rooms. And then on the other side, there was doors that led to basically a backstage where we kept camera equipment, hair and makeup. That's where we hung out, you know, crafty. And then there was a door at the end of the hallway. That door at the end of the hallway, we literally had to change like 5 or 6 times to look like my room, to look like the main lobby, to look like the exit. Like that's all the same door, but just tricked out a million different ways. And so, and every time I'm walking down a new hallway constantly. They just make it a different number at the end, and then we just make it look different. You know, numbers on the doors were changed. So art department had a very, very, very big job to do. They were very, you know, our department sometimes sets the room and then like walks away. They would like set the room and then come back and redo the whole thing, and then come back and redo the whole thing, because every single scene was like needed to be a different hallway where I'm turning corners. So it was really cool to film like that. And as far as the plot of the movie, you know, when I read the script the first time, I didn't see the ending coming. And I know some people have reviewed it and been like, I saw it coming right away. And I was like, well, you're smarter than I am. But I didn't see it coming, because I was like, oh, like, I guess I just kind of was like, yeah, what is this? It's some sort of like medical experiment, the serum. I was like trying to figure that part out when I was watching it. I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like it heals them quickly. Like, what is this? Like, is it something with the government? Is it something deeper than that? Like, what is this? You know, it's weird alien shit. I don't know.
Yeah, because that's what it felt like, kind of to get. I kind of felt like I discovered it as Sharon did in the film. Actually, that's the experience I had of it. I'm sure there's more clever people than me that figure it out, but to me, it was kind of more felt like when we were going through those stages, if you realize that there's a serum which gets introduced fairly early on, so I don't think I'm giving any spoilers then, and it seems to kind of heal people. That's kind of something we get fairly early on, and when you realize that's a device to just eternally torture someone, like just throughout, just heal them to torture them. Yeah, that is such a wonderful kind of horror premise, and then you get the twist on top of it. So it's already kind of got this really nice premise, and then you get this kind of extra layer as a little bonus at the end.
Yeah,
lovely.
I just thought it was super I thought it was super original, and I thought Peter did a great job with, you know, and Matt, who wrote it. I was like, wow, you guys did a really cool twist. Like, you really flipped it on its head. I was like, and then, you know, with the doctor, and then when you learn, you know, that whole scene where you learn, like, oh, there's no escaping this. You end up having to torture. Like, you have to do this, or you get tortured, and the doctors torture each other. Like, it's a self-perpetuating system that you're just in. And I was like, this is super cool. Like, this is such a cool idea. Like, I thought it was really, really interesting. And I was happy we could pull it off, you know, and that it did leave some audience members along the way guessing, or thought they knew what it was about. And then they get, you know, that twist at the end where they're like, oh shit. And then you go back and think about certain things, and you're like, oh, damn, it was right there in front of me, like, the entire time. And that's the thing. It's just right there in front of you if you really take the time to see it. And like we said, there's some people who are like, I knew it from the opening, you know, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, you never know. Those people are telling the truth. There's always going to be some people who figure it out, but yeah. I think some of those just like to say they knew it.
Yeah, or I'm like, okay, cool, good for you. Well, don't spoil it for the people who didn't, because I did not see that when I read it. I did not see that at the, you know, I read it like a book. Like, I just read it like a novel when I was reading the script, just enjoying every juicy part. And I didn't see that coming. And so I thought it was really cool. I thought it was a really cool plot twist. And because they have a couple twists in there, and I really do think it's cool. It was a cool little, you know, and it tied it together in a bow pretty nicely. I mean, of course, you know, we wish we would have more time. You know, of course, we wish you had more money for special effects and all of the things at the end. There's all these things. It's an independent film, but, you know, for what it could be and with the budget it was, I think it served its purpose.
I mean, you know, I will say this, certainly. I think there's so many, we get quite a few people on the show who are independent filmmakers or actors in independent film. And there's a lot of the films which I really enjoy, but like, I think it's like, oh, if they'd had a bit more money, or if they'd kind of had a bit more time to kind of work on the script a bit more, it would have been even better. This really does feel like just a completely fully formed film, which I'm not saying independent film isn't always, but it isn't always. But like, this one really felt like,
oh, well,
I feel like more money might have ruined it, if anything. I honestly think that there's some films you don't want extra money in, it just then becomes something else altogether.
The director will really appreciate that, because, you know, he's, you know, sometimes they can be sensitive souls about certain things, and, you know, you know, you always wish you had more time, more money, that, to be truthful, like, to do that hanging, and which we're not giving anyone, I get hung in the movie. To do that, you know, they hung me like 6 times, which is a lot for like an indie. And that was 6 different occasions that they had to do that. And because Peter was never completely satisfied with it. And then he ended up using the first take we did, because because the energy, everything was there. It was just like on the set. It was like da 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 da, you know. But, you know, so sometimes it can ruin it if you do have more time and more money, because you'll just keep, if you struck gold one time, just don't try to redo it again. Just be happy with it and move on. But sometimes you're like, oh, well, we have the time, so let's just keep going. And then you end up being like, we didn't need to do that over and over again. We got it, you know. But yeah, it was I think we're all really happy with it, the whole cast and crew. Like, we're all just, again, because it was such a labor of love, and so many people worked so hard on it, and so much. I mean, we all became such great friends. Like, we were just so excited that it came out, because as any independent film, you just hope it comes to the light of day. You know, you're like, I hope people watch it and see it, and it resonates with people, and it entertains them for a bit. And so we just get we're happy, you know.
And it's available now to stream on VOD and DVD.
Yes, VOD. Yep.
One thing I did want to ask, so like, whether it's Human Centipede or whether it's Antidote or the other kind of horrors you've been in, do you ever find kind of it's hard to shake it off? Because there's some kind of quite horrific themes in Antidote alone.
Yeah. The Human Centipede was hard to shake off, the second one especially was very hard to shake off.
Yeah, we didn't even really talk about that.
The second movie was so gruesome. It was so disgusting. It was so awful. Filming that was like, I could still probably have nightmares if I let myself go there. It was just so insane filming that movie. So gruesome. But yeah, there is something, you know, I think for me, because I haven't played the like Louis' character, the doctor, or any of the doctors, you know, in our movie who are doing the horrible, horrific things to other people, you know, that man versus man. I'm always the one getting the things done to me. So there are times when it's like emotionally hard to shake off because you've gone to such like a deep part of yourself, like you're losing your life, you're losing everything, like this is what your fate is, that it can sometimes be hard to shake off, but it doesn't take me that long. Now, I do think, you know, if you're a method actor and you go really, really deep, and it would be harder to shake off, you know, playing the villain in those instances where you're hurting other people. Like that's where I've only had to hurt people in like Lifetime movies, and there's no blood in those, but
ironically,
there's no blood, but you know, I've had to like run people over and stab them and shoot them, and I've done some really horrific things in Lifetime movies, but again, you don't see any of that. But I'm always like, oh, that's so fucked up, you know, like because it's so different from me. So I could see how it would be very, very hard for, you know, to come down. Like you need to have like a decompression from doing a role like that. So for this role, it wasn't super hard to come out of anything that I did, again, because we were moving so quickly and I just had to move on to the next thing. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've actually brought something else back to my mind. It's like, I think one of the most chilling scenes for me was you've got this scene just in the office when you and the doctor are talking. And it's just so nice. It's so pleasant. It's so like, you can tell for a second his humanity comes back in just that conversation. I think the awful thing about it is like that he's still a feeling human being who's doing these awful things as everyone else there is. And I think that was what got to me the most. It's like, it's not a monster doing this. It's a human doing this. It's a human forced to do this over and again.
And he has to do it. Like there's no choice. Like you have to. And like when I say it, but what if you don't want to? It's like, that's not the choice. Like then you get tortured even more. And it's like, oh my God, like to imagine being in that situation where it's like, but I don't want to do those things, whatever it is. And then, but no, you have to keep doing them. That's just how it works down here. And yeah, it's just so awful to think about, like, what if that was what it was? Like, can you imagine if that was our eternity? Like, oh my God.
How do you think you would do if you were stuck in Sharon's shoes?
Oh my God. I would just, you know, I've thought about that a million times. I've been like, because even on set, I was like, what if, how would I react in this situation? And I'm like, I don't know. I just don't know. I want to say I would fight as hard as she did. And I want to say I would keep going. But if you just know you're never going to get out, do you just succumb to the fate, or just like, whatever, I'm just going to be a robot at this point? And, you know, yeah, sure, let me cut out the guy's tongue again, you know, like type thing. And that scene actually in particular was very, very, very intense to film. I was there, but the guy who is the doctor who does it, he was an extra. So he got called, said, hey, you want to come be an extra in this, you know, thriller? You're going to be playing a doctor. All of the doctors had no idea that they were going to be like such featured extras. They're not just like walking in the background. We're like, no, you have to like touch the actors and torture them. And they're like, what? You know? So the guy, Evan, who did that, had to be the one to pull it out. He was like sweating bullets because, you know, Ravi's like, you know, strapped down, and Ravi's the actor, and he's like, yeah, let's do it. Come on. And he has this like contraption opening his mouth and the light and all that stuff. And Evan's holding this tool with like, I guess, I thought it was a calf's tongue, but I guess it's a lamb's tongue. And he's like holding it like this this gives nothing away because it was in the trailer, but he's like holding it like this and he's shaking. Evan's hand is he's shaking because he's like, oh my God, I have to like put it in his mouth and then really close to his actual tongue and then like pull it out and like has to be quick and it's so technical and all these things. And there's like blood dripping and all, just so technical. Again, he just came to work to be an extra. So he was like, what? You know, and I'm like, this is where they need to get credit in the film. This is where like all these guys need an actual like name, credit, like to be, you know, they're doing a lot more than just, they're not just background. And Evan was like shaking and Peter was like, you do it every day to him. Don't shake. Like so it was like he had to build a character moment where it was like he had to then I torture this. I cut this guy's tongue out every single day. This is just my job. Done. You know, and so, you know, our doctors had a really intense job to do on set because it's like you can't have any emotion, you can't have any feeling. Like you literally just do this every single day. Don't have any sort of like, yeah, this is just like clocking in 9 to 5, you know. And Evan was just like, oh my God. But Peter was like, don't shake. You can't not shake. Your hand cannot shake when you do it. He was like, you can't do it. And Evan was like, okay. And then they got it and it was great. But he came off set and he was like sweating bullets. And I was like, wow, sorry. Like you didn't know that was going to be your job today. We brought him back many, many more days. But yeah, it was because I was like, let's keep using the same doctors, you know.
I didn't check the credits. Did he at least get a credit as like tongue pulling doctor?
No, he got a name.
Oh, he got a name, even better.
Yeah. No, I made sure because I ended up becoming a producer on this movie as well. And I was like, you know, when we were on set and I was like, they should all get credited as Dr. something, you know, like even if it's their own last name. I was like, because they are playing, even though they don't have lines and dialogue, they're playing a very prominent role in this movie. Like the doctors are just like the set is its own character. Like those doctors are very specific characters who, you know, those actors had to bring a lot to that work, you know, and they didn't know they were coming to work to like saw somebody's leg off, you know. And again, don't be nervous while you do it. And they're like, okay. Like I'm touching tools and the main actor. This is crazy. You know, that's not a normal thing for an extra to do. So yeah.
Before we let you go, so you mentioned producing on this movie and you're working with the director and producing a future flick. So tell us how is it stepping behind the camera and doing that behind the scenes stuff?
It's so interesting because many years ago, I had a really small production company and I did a couple short films and I did like music videos. And so I had a little bit of experience with, you know, producing. It's not my favorite thing to do, like the paperwork part of it, but the collaborative part of producing is super, super fun. And it's really fun to get to work on a project that I don't have to perform in, that I can find the performers for it and get to have a say in that. And so it's such a different avenue, but I respect producers so much now that I've like dabbled in the producing side, because to get a project off the ground, and I know this as an actor, I am like one small piece of this huge puzzle. And yes, it's like my image forever, but so many components have to be put into place and so many of the right players have to come and make a project. And so as I'm helping produce more projects, I'm learning along the way, like, wow, you know, actors do have an important role, but so does everybody else on the set. You know, every single person does. Sound guy, everybody is so important. And you have to just treat everyone, you know, with the same amount of and level of respect. And, you know, you'll get the best one, you'll get happy employees and you'll get really great product out of it. So it's really cool.
And are we on the road to seeing an Ashlynn Yennie film?
Oh, I don't know about that. There's a couple of people who've been like, are you ever going to direct? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Maybe one day. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe. We'll see. We'll see how the cards, you know, land. But as of right now, I'm just still acting. And, you know, I have a couple more movies coming out this year. They're TV movies. And then I'm getting ready to go shoot a paranormal thriller in Pennsylvania over the summer. And that'll be really cool because I haven't done a paranormal film before. I've only done, that man versus man. So it's going to be really cool to do the ghosty stuff. So I'm super excited.
Well, we can't wait to see that one. I've got to say, look, this show I've been doing for just over a year, did another podcast before it, and through that I've had the opportunity of interviewing Oscar-winning writers, people from my childhood who I love, big screen presences. But to actually talk to someone who was part of something, which again, I'll say it, which literally shocked everyone in an age where people can't be shocked, is amazing. I really love this new film. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.
Oh, thank you so much. It was really lovely to chat. And yeah, just, if I ever can come on again, I can't wait to talk again about more things.
Please do. Just very quickly, because this came up in chat and I've got a plug too. So Dave McCran has asked, where can he watch previous episodes of Dr. Squee? Well, you can catch audio episodes, as Paul has so rightly said, and the Electronic Media Collective or drsquee.com. And you can catch our videos at the Dr. Squee Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. I think I've covered everything there, but please do check it out. Please do check out, I have got a little caption for this as well. Check out Antidote, which is available now streaming on VOD and DVD right now. It's really a great flick. And by the way, hour and a half, the perfect length for horror or comedy. So just
yes, it is. Then that's not too long. You don't want it to drag on.
Yeah, shouldn't be shorter than that. Shouldn't be long than that. Hour and a half.
Yeah.
That's what horror and comedy should be.
Yes.
I've been Dr. Squee. Joining me tonight has been
Ashlynn Yennie.
That was my show. And please, everyone, remember, in a world where you can be literally anything, please be kind.
Yeah.
Join us next time.
Love it.
Actually, I'm just going to pop on the screen just one last thing. If you're still watching, please do join me on Tuesday next week. I will put up full details, but Trevor Locke is going to be my guest, the fantastic stand-up comedian. Other than that, please join us on Thursday. We've got the radio show, which will be using this interview along with the big question of the week, and we've got loads of other great stuff. And you can catch that on thebear.live. That's every Thursday, 8 p.m. till 10 p.m. That's UK time. Please check out your local time zones for more information. Thank you very much. We'll see you again soon.